everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net and scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us as always, and thank you for all your continued love and support and helping other people find out about the Paranormal Portal. We've got an epic show for you guys today. I am joined by a wonderful guy that I've known for several years in the community. He's appeared on my show before. You may recognize him if you're familiar with the back catalog, but if not, you're going to love this interview. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Eric Mintel of Eric Mintel Investigates with me here today. And if you're not familiar with Eric, he is an author as well as an investigator. His new book is out, and it's called Eric Mintel Investigates Casebook Investigations. So you got to go out and find that, and we'll get into more about that, as well as Eric is the host of his own shows with Eric Mintel Investigates, where they go out and do investigations. And he also has a podcast and YouTube channel, so look for him out there and give him some of your love. Hey, Eric, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
I am doing great, and thank you for the love, Brent. I appreciate that. We definitely need all the love we can get.
Just group hug.
Yeah, exactly.
So
a paranormal hug.
Absolutely. So I know you've probably talked with this about me before, but I always start with, how did the journey start? How did your journey start into all this weirdness and wonder?
Oh my God. Do you have about 10 hours?
No, give us the abridged version.
I'll give you the thumbnail sketch here.
Sure.
No, I'm an only child, and we're here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and Bucks County has a rich history of ghost stories and, ties to the Underground Railroad. Washington, visited a lot of these areas here. And, so we've got a lot of that history here. Plus, I was brought up on ghost stories. My father told me of experiences that he had, and things that just, are otherworldly, UFOs, not only just ghosts, but UFOs, even Bigfoot sightings in this area. So this whole area was always like a hotbed for paranormal. And I've always loved that. I always loved that as a young kid and was always immersed in the stories. But then, as we get older, I became a professional jazz musician. So I'm still doing that with the Eric Mintel Quartet, but I'm still, doing a lot more with the Eric Mintel Investigates. And in 2016, I was looking at a lot of like paranormal shows on TV, and I was like, I could do that. I could do something like that, because I was always a filmmaker, and I always loved that. I always loved filmmaking. I always loved editing. And I said, I can do something like that. So I started my show, and it was called Bucks County Paranormal Investigations initially. And then I changed it to Eric Mintel Investigates, because we were traveling and being called upon in all these different areas to investigate haunted bed and breakfasts or inns, or Bigfoot or Dogman in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. So, so it's been kind of morphed into this, nationally televised kind of a thing now, because I'm on a lot of different cable channels and cable shows, community stations, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and Temple University Television in Philadelphia, and up in the Lehigh Valley here. So, and a lot of different areas, but the usual social media outlets too, YouTube, Facebook. But we love telling stories, man. And there is just a plethora of stories that why I do this and why I love it is because it's amazing how many people do not have a clue what's in their own backyard.
Right. Yeah. That's very true. Yep.
So they pass by these wonderful venues all the time that have got these incredible stories, but had no clue. So what we're doing is we're telling those stories, providing the history, and it's a lot of fun. So it's educational and it's entertaining. It's a lot of fun to do. And on top of it, we've captured some incredible footage on video, which we still, I mean, a lot of it we're still wrapping our heads around.
Sure.
So, yeah, no, I mean, and because you and I have talked about it before, but for the listeners that haven't, I'm sure this is going to be something that'll blow their minds too.
Yeah, it's really phenomenally intriguing, the fact that the deeper you go into this stuff, the more questions you have. It's like you're never, you feel like you're moving towards solutions, but actually you're just realizing how much you don't know.
How much you don't know, and how much there's a connection. Like we had just said before, there's a connection between ghosts and UFOs, or Bigfoot and UFOs, and lots of different aspects of that. And I know we're going to talk about it, but something happened to us in the Pine Barrens where we got zapped, and we got zapped by some kind of like electromagnetic pulse that pretty much just drained all the batteries, drained my watch, or drained my phone. It drained Dom's Apple Watch. So, and it was amazing because what happened next after that, we captured that on video, and it's something that we could talk about, but it was amazing. I cannot believe that we caught it on video. And that's on my video called On the Watch for Squatch Part 2.
I love that title, On the Watch for Squatch. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that about the Pine Barrens, is that there's actually, of course, everybody hears the Pine Barrens and you think of the Jersey Devil, but there's actually a lot of reports of Bigfoot activity in there.
There is. And, the thing with, and I don't want to piss any Jerseyites off, but there's the Jersey Devil. But, the Jersey Devil has always been very hard to identify because you have so many inconsistent reports.
Yeah.
Basically people see a huge winged type horse looking creature. Others, it could be as small as a turkey. Others, it could be as medium-sized dog, something like that. So that to me was always it was always different. There was always different reports. But with Eric Spinner, who's done a lot of research of Bigfoot in the Pine Barrens, getting reports of these creatures going into neighborhoods, taking the garbage out of the garbage and bringing it back into the woods, and these people seeing these things walking on two legs and going back into the woods. And it's not people, and it's not a bear. Yeah. So, and then there's highway crossings. People are getting those all the time. We up here in Bucks County, maybe about a year and a half ago, father and son were driving on 611, which is right out here by me, and they saw an 8-foot shadow cross the road.
Oof.
And then we've been having some huge Bigfoot sightings over the last few years here. We're going to be doing a video today, and it's for a haunted antique shop. But the guy that's one of the owners, Tim, he had a huge Bigfoot encounter in Bucks County here where he had a deer thrown at him.
Oh, my God.
And all these growls and everything. And it was early in that he couldn't see it. He couldn't see it, but he heard it. He had the deer thrown, and it was physically there. I mean, it was there. But it's a fascinating case that we're also looking into. And it's the thing is, are these things able to cloak themselves?
Right. Because
we've heard so many reports of people that just don't, it's there, but they can't see it. It's like a deer, how they blend into the environment.
Oh, sure. Yep.
So that's one thing we're looking into, but it's just fascinating. And listening to his story, I'm pretty good at discerning the truth from the BS with people. But this guy, man, is just, he's spot on. You could hear the crack in his voice, goosebumps. It was just something that profoundly affected him. And that's what we do in a lot of these investigations. We interview a lot of witnesses that have had Bigfoot encounters, UFO sightings, dogman encounters. And it's made such an impression on them that they will never forget it. It's like they were right. It was like yesterday.
So, if you don't mind, can I ask a little bit about that experience with that guy having the deer thrown at him?
Yeah, that was. I think it was back in the mid '80s, probably in the mid '80s. So it wasn't recent, but it was in the mid '80s. Sure. Now, this guy was an avid hunter. He won't go hunting again. He won't go back there.
Sure.
That's how it. And he went up there. First couple of times he had gone up there, he had heard these growls and these screams. And and he didn't know what to make of it. He just thought, well, maybe there's a dog out there or something. He didn't really put too much into it. Next time he went up there, same thing happened. But then more things are happening. Trees are getting knocked over, and he's hearing more of the crack of the branches and stuff. then I think the third time that he went back up there, that's when he was getting the screams and the growls and that, like saying that this thing was saying, "Get out of my area.
Yeah.
This is my territory."
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing that happened to us in Elkhorn when we were investigating the Beast of Bray Road. But he was just absolutely just gobsmacked as far as that goes. Like when this thing threw this deer at him, and then he also said that he took his boots off in the woods to try to goes quieter.
Mm-hmm.
And when he took his boots off, the thing completely quieted down.
Really?
And it's almost like it knew he was onto it, like Tim was onto it. So, but he just did not ever see it. He heard it.
Yeah. Was the deer like a fresh kill, or was it rotten, or didn't he wait around to look?
I think it was a fresh kill.
That seems so interesting to me because you imagine, I mean, that's how they live. And it's not like they got drive-throughs. They're when they get something, it's got to go, back for the family.
I'll ask Tim because I'm going to see him tonight. Don't quote me on that. That could have been an already killed type thing,
like a rotten carcass or something. Okay,
so I'll ask him about that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe it just gets so upset.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense that why would they throw their food source?
Right. That is unless it was like, okay, here, take this and get out of here. Maybe something like that. Get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I don't know. It's a very curious encounter. So that is amazing, though. I think that people that have those kinds of experiences, I certainly wouldn't want to jump in their shoes. But when you guys did go up and look into the Beast of Bray Road up in Elkhorn, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was in October of 2021, so pretty recently. And we had met with Lee Hampel, which I'm sure you've had Lee on your show. And Lee's a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, he is.
And he's just so down to earth. Him and his brother Fred are just awesome guys. But so we went there, and Ellen Collins, thank you, Ellen. She put this video and was able to pay us and get us out there and made this video happen. But we get out to Elkhorn, met with Lee, and showed us all these incredible pictures of just all the evidence that he's got on his property. And his farm, it's about 0.2 of a mile from Bray Road. And if people are not familiar with the Beast of Bray Road, it's supposed to be an upright canine, dogman, werewolf type creature with yellow eyes or sometimes orange glowing eyes, red glowing eyes. So Lee's showing us all this stuff with like hair samples under the microscope that are translucent. There's no medulla. I mean, just incredible stuff. One picture blew me away, which was incredible. It was a trail cam picture, which he's got trail cams all over. He's been getting this weird mist that comes up from the field, right? And in this one picture, you see the mist come over this roadkill deer that he had in this bait area. And those trail cams are like 30 seconds timed apart, from taking the pictures. Yeah. So in that one picture, you got the mist and the deer. The next picture, the mist is gone, and so is the deer. And it was just blew me away. So that kind of, and then there was one other picture that really just kind of blew me away, and which made me think later on during that investigation what it could have been. But in the daytime, he's got this picture with about 5 or 6 orbs in the sky, little orbs. These are photos that Lee's kind of kept pretty much close to the vest. He hasn't really showed a lot of people this.
Sure.
Circle orb, translucent orb with what looks like to me the creature inside the orb.
Wow.
In like a T formation. It was like this. It was like a T, and you could see this thing in the orb. So that was something that really kind of like made me raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
And then we get out there. Now, with me was Dominic Sattel, my spirit medium, completely out of his wheelhouse as far as hunting cryptids and hunting a werewolf. Ellen was with us, and her son Scott was working drone and working the camera. So it was just the 4 of us. So I said to Lee after the presentation, I said, Lee, can we go out and investigate, and do a night investigation? He said, absolutely, just be careful. I said, okay, we will. We took four-wheelers to get down there because it's a 35-acre hayfield. So it's about a half a mile walk to get down there. So we went down there, get to the bait area, and Dominic thought we'd scare whatever it was down there away with the four-wheelers, which proved completely wrong because what happened next is we got off the four-wheelers and we just happened to look up, and honestly, prior to that, we thought we'd have to scrub the whole investigation because when we started going down there, the sky looked like it was going to rain. It was really, really cloudy. But we get down to that area and we look up, Dominic looks up and it's completely clear. You could see the stars, everything was clear.
Wow.
Then all of a sudden he goes, what the hell is that? And we look up there and here's a solid orb of light going over the field, just slowly over the field. And we're sitting there wondering what the hell it is. We're like thinking it could be a satellite. We looked later, it wasn't. You could see other planes around it. And to make a long story short, and we're like trying to figure it out. It does a 45-degree angle and blinks and disappears. Just blinks out.
Wow.
That was the first thing that happened. And we caught it on video. Then the second thing was the howls. We heard a howl in the distance. A long howl. And then we heard one closer. And then this closer howl was getting, it was like a deeper howl. So they were actually getting deeper as it was getting closer. The third howl, and prior to hearing the third howl, Ellen's still looking up in the sky at the UFO, and she's trying to figure out what the hell happened to this thing. And with that, Dominic says to her, "Are you hearing this? Are you hearing these howls?" And she goes, "Yeah, they're coming from over there." So with that, we heard this third howl, which so close, and it was not even 100 yards away from us. And it was so loud, and it sounded like a man screaming in this field. It was this low, guttural scream, growl, yell. Definitely not a coyote. Definitely not a wolf. Definitely not an owl, screech owl, fox, nothing. Because we went months after that. We went and looked at all the different sounds could have possibly been. We never found it. We never found it. And for whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't do this when we did this, but just recently I put headphones on to listen to those sounds again. I never did that before. I was using the computer. I never used the headphones. And on the second howl, which was really crazy, we heard a growl really close to us, like right behind us.
Oh no.
And it was a growl. It was this like that kind of a thing. Yikes. And it was right behind us. And I know it wasn't Dominic, it wasn't me. I know we were hungry, but it wasn't our stomachs. But it was so weird. And the weird thing is, Brent, that growl is what we heard recently, like maybe about a month ago, in this Vampa museum, the vampire museum that we're actually investigating. So there's a weird connection between this thing. And I'm like hoping to myself, God, I hope we didn't bring anything home.
Right.
Because then, so after the howls were over, then another thing that this mist came up from the field that night. And then I understand later on that mist is also associated with Bigfoot sightings. Oh. Which I didn't realize this. Somebody had said, yeah, are you sure you didn't have a Bigfoot encounter? I said, I don't know. I mean, we're looking for the Beast of Bray Road, but it could have been a Bigfoot. I don't know. But this big, like, mist came up and it was messing with our electronics. Oh, which was really weird. It was like we had little Cinco microphones that are like tiny. They're like that big, and you clip them onto your lapel. The sound of this howl was so much louder when on site that it was able to pick that up. That's how loud it was. Wow. So that was that, and then oh my God, and then we get back to the hotel. We're recapping the whole thing, and then wouldn't you know it, man, the whole town of Elkhorn loses power that night.
Really? Wow.
So there was something we hit the trifecta of like paranormal activity. And to be honest, Brent, I was not looking for it. I didn't think we were going to see anything.
Sure.
Or hear anything. I went out there thinking, hey, we're going to get a great documentary. And I didn't even have any protection either. That was my stupidity because we were in a pretty dangerous situation at that point. Yeah. And I didn't realize it. I mean, that's really, just being honest with you, I did not realize that because it changed my whole perspective on what's out there. And then the following week after that is when we did our investigation of Bigfoot in the Pine Barrens.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a week later, and again, I mean, the stuff I had to say, because and you know this too. I've said this before, where some of the Bigfoot shows I see, and no offense to any of those guys, but I always see these guys whooping and hollering, and I'm like, man, is that what they really sound like? And I'll be damned if that's not what we heard in the Pine Barrens.
Really? Huh.
So we were about 5 miles into the Pine Barrens, in an area in the Wharton State Forest, in an area called the Bowl. Just like it sounds, it's high on the sides and low in the middle. We were in there in base camp about 600 feet into the woods, and we set up base camp. And Art and Dominic are talking, and all of a sudden, I heard it, and Eric had some high-powered mics going. Eric Spinner was with us, and we stopped everything, listened to it, and we heard it. It was there. So Eric's wife Heather decides to answer it back. And she's whooping. She whooped, and it whoops back to her.
Oh.
And she whoops. It whoops. She whooped 4 or 5 times. This thing came back and forth. It was the most spookiest night. And then it was getting further and further away. Mm. Then we heard this huge rustling sound going behind us, like this big rustling, because there was no wind. And we're thinking to ourselves, well, could this have been Mama Bigfoot going out to get the juvenile? Because that's what there's been a lot of sightings and reports of these juvenile size Bigfoot. As crazy as that sounds, it happened. I mean, it's all on video. And and there was no one down there. I mean, there was no houses. It's nothing but thick, dense forest for, thousands of acres. Wow. It's incredible down there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are surprised by that. You think of New Jersey and you think, oh, it's just this urban, jungle, but it's not. Yeah. There's the Pine Barrens are enormous.
Enormous. I mean, it's a scary place. You can get out of that. When I got out of the car that night, I was like, wow. And we had just gotten back from Elkhorn, so I was still reeling from that. But we got out of the car, and man, a big sense of isolation hit me. Like this, like, wow, we're like, if something happens, there's nobody here to help us. It's like, we're done. And so then we had that happen. And then those guys stayed a little longer. We did some tree knocks and things like that, but we didn't get any responses. But we did hear some howls and things like that, which could have been coyote. But this whoop was unbelievable, man. It was incredible. And then we did last year, we kept saying, oh, we got to get back and do a follow-up. And we never did until last year. And we did a follow-up, which was we did On the Watch for Squatch Part 2. And it was the same area. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go back there because prior to that, in July of last year, and actually July of this year, they had fires again down there. They had wildfires down there.
Okay.
And Eric was thinking, well, let's go to another area because this. And I'm like, no, let's go to this area because we had the activity before. Something's down here. Let's just go there. So we decided to go there, and he met us down there. And again, it was me, Art, Dominic, Eric's wife, Heather, same team that was there in 2021.
Okay.
This time around, though, Brent, we brought Dominic out in a different capacity. We wanted to see what the paranormal aspects would be of Bigfoot here in the Pine Barrens, or in the Pine Barrens. Eric's idea was, could Bigfoot be a ghost? Mm-hmm. Is that why you're not seeing him? Or is it traveling in and out of portals, other dimensions of realities? Anyway, so that was like, we brought Dominic out with that. But what I found really, really interesting on this particular investigation was the way Dominic and Art had this. Dominic devised this way, and I don't know if any of your listeners will understand this or connect with this, but Dominic devised this way that Sasquatch is so connected to Art that Sasquatch is actually seeing through Art's eyes and vice versa. And the only reason I'm saying that is because what happened on the investigation kind of warrants that idea. Okay. We're sitting there in base camp that night. We're back here. Now, this is September 2nd of last year. And we're sitting in the same base camp, same area, talking about what we experienced the last time. All of a sudden, Art and Dominic are talking again. and then Art stops. Art's been going through some cancer treatments, so he's got to take some medications and stuff. But to look at him, you wouldn't think anything's wrong with him. But he's getting through it.
Sure.
But he just stopped and said, "Hey guys, I don't know if it's because of the medications that I'm taking, but my heart is really racing right now." Mm-hmm. And with that, we hear a huge crack of a branch behind us, like something was just there. And I turn around real quick, and the camera person turned around. There's a branch going like this, like something just hit it.
Wow.
And then for 2 split second, I saw 2 yellow eyes about 7 to 8 feet up, and then disappeared. And then you could hear it running back into the swamp area. And you could hear us talking about that. The video, it's dark. It's got night vision. It's hard to see, but you can. And I made sure that people could see where that branch was moving that we were able to get. It's sort of on the lower end of the screen. And the eyes, you could just about see them. Oh, my God. It was the craziest night, man. And we were getting all kinds of really crazy activity after that. We were getting red pinpoints of light in the woods. Wow. And that's people have been talking about that too. These little red pinpoints of light and lights in the woods, like for all intents and purposes, like UFO lights. So again, there's that connection with Bigfoot and UFO, mm-hmm. or Dogman or whatever it was there,
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how these phenomena bleed together, and it's not always apparent which one you're dealing with. Whether it's some kind of ghostly encounter or some kind of cryptid encounter or extraterrestrial encounter or something else entirely. It's just so amazing to me. And that was one of the big epiphanies of my journey into all of this, was that, wait, I can't tell you how many times I've read alien encounter stories and been like, my God, that could be a haunting. It just, the things that happen are so consistent with what people report in hauntings. And then these cryptid reports where there's such a supernatural aspect to it. And I can't pretend to understand any of it really, but it is fascinating.
When Betty and Barney Hill were abducted, remember the Betty and Barney Hill abduction? Sure. After they got back to Portsmouth, a few days later, they experienced some kind of poltergeist activity in their house. Mm. So who knows? I mean, it could be that residual energies or these entities, keeping tabs on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've often thought that people that are actually abducted are probably, and I don't think the idea is unique to me. It's been around forever, but they're probably tagged or marked somehow, and then they're monitored. When I was talking to George on the podcast here, we were talking about, cattle mutilation came up, and I'm like, George, what do you think's going on here? And he's like, well, I think it's them doing long-term experiments. And so every once in a while they dissect a cow just to see what's going on. For some reason, they're watching something. And so maybe the same thing is true for abductees, is that then these people become the subject. And that's why maybe it follows generational lines as well,
That's what I always thought too. And we're of the same thinking that way. Because I'm always thinking that, in our research, we're like, well, people, it seems, that are picked to experience these experiences, or it's generational and it's been in their family lineage, and it just continues that way. So that's the fascinating part about the whole thing. And that's why, a lot of times we're leaving with a lot more questions than answers. We're getting there, but it's like, oh my God, it's like like an onion you're peeling, and it just keeps, the layers just never end.
Because I think this stuff is basically demonstrating reality to us, or at least the true nature of it. So, again, and I've said it on pretty much every interview I've ever done, but it's like, we have this concrete idea of what reality is. It's very rigid and has rules and stuff, but then this stuff comes up and it changes everything. And so I think that's it. The onion that you're talking about is just the nature of reality in its purest state.
Yeah. And I love the fact that we are actually having a conversation about that now, all over the world, because, the government's kind of coming out and saying, hey, folks, the UFOs that you're seeing all these years are real. We just don't know what they are.
Right.
And, they don't seem to be posing a threat.
Right.
They may just be curious about us as we are about them. So, but, we also have to figure out what's flying in our airspace that we don't want to, have any mid-air collisions or anything.
Well, now that's another question I have for you, because, we don't know anything really about all of these varied phenomena that you're looking into, aren't you? I mean, you had mentioned that you had no protection before, and you realized that was a big mistake. But when you're doing these things, aren't you thinking, look, every one of these situations could go bad in a blink?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
as you're going out there, you are, in essence, putting yourself in harm's way. And it's, it might not be the actual phenomena, but it might be any number of things that could go really wrong. So
Well, yeah.
when you heard that cracking and the branch was swinging and you saw those yellow eyes, didn't you think, uh-oh? Or did you think, oh, cool? Where were you at with that?
That was the first time I did get kind of jumped up. Like I felt like, ooh, what's going on here? Whoa. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I know that I'm on the edge of like, not the fear or flight kind of a thing, but like, what is, we're getting close to something here. Let's be careful. When I was in my teens, I got attacked by 2 Dobermans. So
Ooh,
like,
ouch.
it was bad. And and whenever I hear growling, that kind of guy, puts me into that PTSD mode. So it was similar to that. When I heard that, it was like, whoa, you get it. You're like that. But yeah, you're right. We were in harm's way, and we should have had protection, but we didn't, because I just, I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's blind faith or what, but we like to keep ourselves like in this bubble of protection.
Sure.
And I have strong faith too, that we're going to be okay. But,
Yeah.
and I try not to go to those areas that we won't be, and even on the Beast of Bray Road investigation, people had commented, well, why didn't you guys stay out there longer? I'm like, no. After what got me was when we were out there, the last thing that got me, what we got out of there was, and why we got out of there was when Dominic said, shine the light over to the corn where we heard the howl. And there in the corn, we see 2 yellow eyes about 6 feet to 7 feet up doing this.
Ooh.
And it was the spookiest thing, Brent. I said, okay, that's it. We're out of here.
Yeah.
This thing's saying, get out of here. This thing's saying, this is my territory. Get out of here. When I saw that, I said, okay, we have no protection. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I said, we got to get out of here. Lee, and we went back to Lee's barn, and Lee couldn't believe we were back so soon. But I told him. But here's the other thing. All those trail cams that Lee had that night, they weren't working.
Oh.
They stopped working at like 5 o'clock. And then Lee told us that the next day. And it's like something turned them off. And then they turned on 7 o'clock the next morning. And there's no pictures of us on his trail cams out there. And I had baited this area earlier in the day with steak bones. And they were gone too. So, but anything could have taken that. But it was a crazy night, man. I mean, and then we're talking about the Beast of Bryn Athyn, which I didn't realize, me and Tom Carey. I'm sure have you had Tom on your show yet?
No, but I know of Tom Carey. Sounds like a wonderful guy.
Great. Tom would be a great guest too. He's a phenomenal author. He's the guy for Roswell. He's the Roswell crash guy. But he's also now gotten into Dogman.
Oh.
Tom is into the Dogman like a dog sinking his teeth into a meaty bone, man. He's not letting go. He loves this stuff.
Wow.
And he got into this because of these reports that he had gotten of this Beast of Bryn Athyn, which is a suburb of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And a lot of people are seeing the same Dogman type creature as they're seeing an Elkhorn. It's the same. When it's on 2 legs, it looks like it's gliding. When it's on 4 legs, it looks like it's really fast. We didn't talk about the follow-up we did in Elkhorn. We did a follow-up in April of 2022, and people were describing, but we didn't encounter it that time, and I'm kind of glad we didn't. But what we did have was a town hall meeting, and over 140 people showed up to tell their story of seeing this creature and describing the same thing. And then when we're doing this Beast of Bryn Athyn, they're describing the same thing. So it's really, there's a real major connection here.
Sure.
A friend of mine said, maybe this thing is traveling in portals, and maybe you should do a experiment where if you're getting a Dogman sighting in one area and you get another Dogman sighting in another area, see where those are and how they correlate, and in what parts of the world,
Sure.
So I don't know, that would be a pretty huge undertaking, but
it would. Yeah. And unfortunately you can't always, I mean, a lot of encounter stories can be like decades old. When you look at like even the BFRO and other repositories for reports, it's like, well, this happened 15 years ago. It's like, oh, which is fantastic. I'm glad that people finally talked about it and put the information out there, but it's not recent enough that it could be looked into. And I think that that's a big takeaway too, is that, if and it's up to the individual, but the more prompt anyone is in reporting what they've experienced, where they've experienced, how they experienced it, the more tools that we can apply to that to look into those kind of things. But yeah, it's tough.
It's amazing, man. Yeah, and just and it's the reports. You're right. And even with today with the AI and stuff like that, and all these videos that are out there, it's like everything is so fake. It's like there's so much fakery going on, and it ruins the research that we're doing. Guys like you are doing. You're out in the field like we are. You're out as much as you can.
Yeah, not as much as I'd like, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? And you're out in Idaho, so it's like that's prime Bigfoot territory out there. And that you guys had that huge footage a couple of years ago with that huge Bigfoot that was captured on video, which I don't know if anybody figured that out yet, if that was a hoax or if that was real footage, even though it was only like 2 seconds worth of footage. But
sure. Yeah,
it was amazing.
I haven't heard either whether it is or not, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the beauty of what's going on and what we're doing. Hopefully, we're giving people a platform to feel like it's okay to come forward first of all and discuss these things. Because I mean, again, my hat's off to you guys for going out there as much as you can and recording this stuff and doing on location stuff. I'd love to do that, and I do that when I can, but I think that the awareness is raising and. Things like your book, I think, are also valuable. So can you talk about your book a little bit?
Sure. I did this book, Casebook Investigations. It was a long time coming. I actually, wanted to write a book about a lot of the cases that we've been on since I started. And so, we talked about the Beast of Bray Road in there, talked about a lot of these other cases, Bigfoot in the Pine Barrens, Beast of Bryn Athyn, and some of the ghost encounters that we've had too, where a woman that we were doing a video for in her house for this farmhouse, because they have a architectural salvage company that's attached to the house. In this house, this woman got bum rushed by the spirit, and literally we caught everything on video.
Oh,
she had a huge meltdown, and I had said to Beth, I said, Beth, do you really want to have this on there? I mean, it's pretty. She's like, oh no, if that's the way it happened. We have to keep it that way.
I remember watching that video.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. It was just insane, man. So, things like that. And I always blame it on Dominic because like 20 minutes into it, where like stuff is happening. Sure. Recently we just did a video for a haunted jazz club, believe it or not. So it was right up my alley.
Oh, cool.
Up in Old Lyme, Connecticut, for the Old Lyme Inn. We're having a premiere of that up there on the 3rd, I believe it is, of October. And we caught some incredible footage on video, and another really weird anomaly people will see in the video too, toward the end of the investigation, which was just blew us all away. So it's stuff like that you can't you can't write this stuff.
Right.
That's why we go in unscripted. It's like we're going in. And the other thing is too, I have a lot of the history that I know of these places. Since I'm not like Dominic, I can't go into these places and feel those spirits like he does. So I'll get all of the knowledge, I'll get all the history, any of the paranormal history, keep it to myself, wait till he gets into the location. And if he's going to those hot spots and he's telling me what he's feeling, then I'll warrant whether or not it's okay to tell him what I already know.
Sure.
And kind of guide him in a certain direction. But so that's what's going to happen tonight, and I know a bunch of things that have happened in this place, so we'll see what happens with that. But I just find it fascinating, Brent. It's just like the stories and the great folks that we talk to, the people are awesome, that we talk to that have got these stories. And like you just said, man, I'm so glad that we're in an environment that people are open to talking about this stuff. That's why when I wrote the book, I put a lot of the witnesses that had UFO encounters, and I put them in by name because they didn't care about, being called out on, because they wanted this known.
Sure.
And so people can find this on Amazon. It's on Amazon.com. Eric Mintel Investigates, Casebook Investigations, Stories, Encounters, and Otherworldly Contact. And all true cases that happened in here, including my own ghost encounter, which I don't know if I told you about this, but the lady in white. I was going to a gig in 1997, and I had my old Toyota, and I'm barreling along down this back road. It's like November of 97, so it's dark early, and it's a little slick out. It had been rain, and I'm going down this back road on Pine Lane in Bucks County. Nothing but woods, dark. All of a sudden, I'm going 60, like I'm going at a pretty good clip. Boom, a deer runs out and I hit it. I'm like, oh my God, I felt terrible.
Yeah.
I hit it, this thing, and I slid like 60 feet together. It just came to a stop. I get out of the car. I'm like, oh my God, I felt so bad. And I'm a piano player, keep in mind. And out of the woods behind me, I hear a woman's voice say, "How's your hands?" And I did one of those things, like that. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And I turn around, hear this woman comes out of the woods in white, stands in front of the car where the deer is. Now, when you see a person in front of your car headlights, you know how that's like, they're kind of like silhouetted out?
Sure.
That's what she looked like to me. And she goes and reaches down to the deer, which is a 200-pound deer. And I had a little damage to the front of my car, but my car was drivable. But she reaches down, grabs this thing by the ear, and drags it off the road like it's nothing, like it was light as a feather. And then says to me, "Get in the car and get out of here."
Oof.
And I split. I told the guys what happened. They were like freaked out. I went back, and my whole hood of my car was all dented in.
Sure.
So I went back the next day thinking maybe there was a house back there. Maybe there was a person that lived back there. That's why they spooked the deer out, and that's how I hit it. But I went back there, no houses, nothing but woods, all woods. I mean, there's houses now since then, but it was, and the deer was gone, Brent. It was unbelievable, man. So that's in the book as well. But it was just, I mean, it's insane. And my father had an encounter with this person too, early on in the 70s. He was, to make a long story short, my dad liked to party. He was an alcoholic, but he swears to God that he was like stone sober this night. And he came home. We used to live in an area in Upper Black Eddy. Mm-hmm. And we used to live right across from the Delaware River. We're washing across the Delaware. So we lived across the street from the Delaware. And he had a habit of coming home late at night, 2 a.m, sometimes, weekends. And he had a little hibachi grill that was on the porch. And he lit that up and started cooking a steak. He was hungry, so he's cooking a steak. So he's sitting there waiting for it to cook, and he's listening. And he looks over at the water, and he sees this white figure, like just coming down the water, like something white on the water. And as he's looking, he sees it's a woman floating on the water, these like long robes and hair.
Wow.
She turned to him, and when she turned from a half a mile away, her face came right up to his.
Oh,
and he's like, and then when she turned away, she went back on the water again. And as she's going down the river, she's singing, "I'm going home, I'm going home." And he said he could hear the voice echo through the valley. I asked him on his deathbed, "Dad, did that happen? Did that really happen?" He swears to God that it happened.
Wow.
And so he's had a lot. I think my dad was like a psychic too. I think he had that kind of ability.
Sure.
Because he had gone to see a psychic, and they said he had a very, very blue aura around him. But they also said that I had even more aura around me.
Right.
So I don't know what that is. I never really developed that. Maybe I do. Maybe I have that. I don't know. I never really developed that. Maybe that's where my music comes from. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But you did see the same apparition, which is really profound. I think that's it was, maybe it's somehow attached to your family. I mean, maybe it's some kind of guardian, or I don't know. I mean,
well, that's what I had said in the book. I said I feel like she was my guardian angel.
Yeah, it sounds like she acted like it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of cool that way. And I've thought about that story, and I've thought about that over the years, almost, I would say almost every day. It's something that again, it's like having a Bigfoot encounter, Dogman, UFO sighting. It's something that profoundly affects you,
Right. No, I think it's fascinating, and that's the beauty of this journey, I guess, is that for one, you have to have the ability to think outside of the normal box. I mean, because
Yeah.
we're presented with these, quote unquote impossibilities, and
Right.
people are experiencing these things, and it's changing their lives, and to try to comprehend this, I think it's Herculean at best, but I think it's, every little bit helps as
Yep.
you're looking into these things, as you're seeing things, it adds to the body of knowledge. And I think that that's very powerful, brother.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's I mean that's why we do what we do, and we keep telling stories tonight, who knows what we're going to find tonight on the investigation.
Hmm.
We're also doing a series called Paranormal Pickers at a vampire museum that I was telling you about earlier.
Hmm.
And that's good. We're going to do another shoot on Wednesday for that. Now that's not an Eric Mintel. It's an Eric Mintel investigates, but it's not. It's going to be on my show, but it's actually Ed Crimme's idea.
Oh,
And actually, we're thinking about now changing the name of that rather than Paranormal Pickers to Paranormal Association for Paranormal Activity or something. I have
sure.
to remember what he said, but it's going to be Para,
Oh, okay.
and we're having a huge premiere October 11th here in Doylestown, where the museum is, but it's in Doylestown at this county theater. So we're going to be on the big screen. So we're going to be on the big screen, and they're rolling out a big red carpet premiere for us of parts 1 and part 2 that we did. So it should be pretty cool.
Well, that's fascinating, brother. Why don't you take a few minutes and let people know how to stay in touch with what you're doing, where to find your book?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
your
Will
shows.
do, man. And I appreciate that. Yeah, they can find my book on Amazon.com. And Eric Mintel Investigates, Casebook Investigations. They can find me on my website, ericmintelinvestigates.org. And of course, on Facebook, Eric Mintel and Eric Mintel Investigates. YouTube channels, Eric Mintel Investigates. So like and subscribe. And then people could see me actually, if there's anybody listening up in the New Hampshire area, I'm going to be speaking at the Exeter UFO Festival at the end of the month on the 31st of August.
Hmm.
And I'm speaking from 2 to 3:15 at the town hall. And then later that night, they've got me playing some solo piano jazz at the Congregational Church next door. So I got a little jazz concert. So they're getting a twofer. And then on the 21st of September, I'll be speaking at the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So I'll be selling my book, doing book signing down there, and we're speaking. Dominic's going to join me on that one. We're going to be there speaking from 5 to 6 on the 21st of September in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So really looking forward to that, man. I've heard that's an incredible festival there, and 30,000 plus people within a mile square
Wow.
of this place. Yeah, so it's incredible. So and what I've been doing. I've been hustling, and I've got 28 days in a row booked in October. Every single day practically is booked. Whether speaking engagements, events for the videos, premieres, and stuff like that. And then come November, we start our Charlie Brown Christmas jazz concerts at the end of November all the way into December.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's going to be a busy end of the year, and then we start right up again doing video in January. So just got to keep busy, keep the money rolling in, and keep paying those bills.
Yeah, amen. Well, I tell you what, everybody that I know personally in the paranormal community seems absolutely swamped in October, and I got nothing going on. I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? Everybody's got things.
Oh my God, you're doing some great content, man, and you've got a great show. So, yeah, I just started. I booked stuff in March and April
Hmm.
to get ready for October. So I was booking way long ago.
Wow.
So yeah, so
See,
yeah.
you're much more organized than I am. I tend to be more reactionary than proactive, and that's probably my biggest weakness in all of this. But yeah, brother, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for taking the time, and thanks for having me on your show as well.
Oh man, and that's going to be coming out pretty soon too. That's probably in the next week or two.
Oh, good.
So folks, you're going to see Brent on the other side of the microphone. Well, he'll be on that side, but it'll be me talking to Brent. So it's that was fun. That was a lot. I had a lot of fun that day.
Yeah, I think, all of our discussions are great, and we could go for hours easily.
Oh my God.
Sometime we'll have to connect, and you'll have to bring me on one of your journeys into these investigations. That would be a blast.
Or on one of these paranormal conventions too.
Sure.
Definitely. And especially, and I can't wait to share, folks, your story, which blew me away. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be cool. So that'll probably be out in a couple of weeks. So I can't wait for that.
Amen, brother. Well, thanks again for making the time today. This has been a fantastic journey. And
Thank you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, check out Eric Mintel Investigates on YouTube and look at his .org as well. And head to Amazon and pick up the book. And is there a way for people to get autographed copies?
They could. If anybody wants to wants me to autograph it, send me a message on email is em as in Mary Q jazz @gmail.com. I am going to be having books delivered here, and if they're interested, send me a message. I will, sign it, and then they can either Venmo me or whatever, and then I can just get it right out to them in their address. So
outstanding, brother. Well,
Yeah,
thanks again, man. It's been a pleasure, and we'll continue to figure out paths where we can come together.
Absolutely, man. And we'll keep, searching for the truth too.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. And remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net. And that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal, and you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormalportal. Or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place, and we're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. Y'all take care, and remember, we love y'all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.